Eddie Horn and Miss Marty Horn. Is that correct? Mr. and Miss Horn, can you hear us? Go up here and make sure. They were here a minute ago. Well, then we'll come back to them. They dropped off. All right, well, then our next in order is Miss Tracy Pushowski. Miss Tracy, how are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm fine. How about you?
Doing great. Well, you have the floor. Just the ground rules for us as we respect you. Please show respect to the commission and limit your comments if you can to about 5 minutes in duration.
Sure. Thank you. And I just wanted to tell y'all thank you for everything you do for the county. We appreciate your hard work. I know it's a really high paying job you have. I have a daughter that attends Tarleton State University in Stephenville, and she's done that for the last 3 years, and she lives there, but her home residence is at Abbott, Texas with us. And she is voted in the elections by absentee ballot. Well, she went to go and downloaded the form and filled out the form in the first part of October and mailed it off, and she never received her absentee ballot. And she tried to call the office to figure out what's going on. How can she get an absentee ballot and stuff? And she couldn't get a hold of anybody. So she was unable to vote absentee. And since she was attending classes, she didn't have 3 hours in her schedule where she could have driven home and then driven back just to vote. And so she was kind of disappointed, and I understand that, but I just wanted to just say that I guess this was a problem that we didn't get anything in the mail. So I don't know what the solution is.
Aaron, can you address that?
What is your daughter's first name?
Lydia, Lydia.
Okay, the only thing I can do at this point is look in to see that we even got the application.
Okay,
Because we tried to make sure and process everything that we had gotten in prior to the cutoff.
okay. I would appreciate you looking into it. Thank you.
Ms. Pushowski, do you have an email that we can follow up with? Because I'd like to see any response that Aaron sends to you.
Yes, my easiest one, I guess, would be my school email. It's T as in Tom, P as in Paul, K as in kite, Y as in yellow, at penelopeisd.org.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Eric, when you get her an answer, please copy me on it.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, good deal. The Martys haven't joined us again yet, but we do have with us Mr. Larry Phillips. Mr. Phillips, again, if you would limit your comment to about 5 minutes in duration or so, as we show respect to you, please respect the commission, but you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Over here. Regarding her case, her daughter could have voted provisional ballot early. But she's going to vote statewide elections. You can vote, it has to be done in early voting if there's a problem with your ballot. But we have a problem with provisional ballots in town. In May of 19 and May of 2021, I tried to vote in the election, precinct 13 South Whitney. And tried to vote early, was required to vote a provisional ballot. And I never got a confirmation, I never got notification of my ballot count. You vote provisionally, you're supposed to be notified if your ballot counted that night, why it didn't count. Election day, there were some long lines at 13, so that Whitney precinct. And that makes chance in place in particular. Okay.
No, you're good right there, sir.
On several occasions, I had to wait for 45 minutes or an hour to vote. And
This latest election.
Election day.
Go ahead.
And it would be helpful to have a second voter check-in machine at that precinct and require a second person, at least in the morning and evening, to help with that. That would help us relate, especially for really bad team like that.
I agree with you on that, and that's something that has come up in conversation. There's going to be precinct 13. Well, I'm sorry, South Whitney. I'm going off the old lines. That's not.
It's still 13.
Sorry, I got to think about this in my head. And there's a second one that we had this issue with. Was Itasca? It's going to require a second.
About
Really?
having,
Yeah.
having secondaries for someone to go ahead and use 1 and 2 to check in and have their backup, possibly the same thing for all the others, have a singular one for them, them to use and then backup. If this happens. And we can have one out immediately or
I think we just need to go ahead and have it there with them.
Yeah.
I don't think trying to send things out election day is the best use of our resources. Quite frankly, I'd like to see us operate 2 check-in systems at those places that we had issues with, South Whitney, my task.
But yeah,
In
even
the back of
when
my mind, I know it's.
we had some that requested it, but at the same time. On election day, that equipment is not live. So had we set up a secondary one, it wouldn't be showing who got checked in from the other.
Gotcha.
So we contemplated it, we kicked it around because there were some who were asking about it, but it's like
So-
it wouldn't sync up, so. Anybody that had already voted could have come back and voted or checked in with the secondary one, and it wouldn't be notified.
Is that a limitation of the
It's an
equipment? So if we start off in the morning at 7 o'clock with 2 check-ins at South Whitney 7.
So say for election day, we automatically start off with those are already synced with all the information. But if we were to take one in the middle of the day, like say,
Yeah.
saying that they had long lines and they requested another one,
Yeah.
we couldn't just set up another one there.
Oh, no, okay. What I'm advocating here is that we start off first thing in the morning because of limitation on the syncing. But more importantly, I think we've got a little bit of data behind us now in regards to this redistricting. You know, we did kind of cast about when we were consolidated. We tried to make sure we thought we were going to get the same number of voters, but it's clear that voter participation is higher in certain precincts than it is in others. And I think it's time that we take the limited data we have and we go ahead and say, okay, well, these 2 precincts clearly had problems last time. We need to go ahead and start the day off with a second check. And I understand completely why the difficulty of bringing a second unit in during the day. But I think we're just going to have to figure out which precincts to start the day off too. But yeah, I understand the voter integrity point you make, and that's completely understood on this end, is that during the day, you would have a system that if you set it up at noon and you set the other one up at 7 a.m., that somebody could come into the one you set up at noon and it would not be synced because of limitations of the equipment. I don't want that.
Guys,
Which is something to talk about with the VOTEC system, because we're coming up end of life on that, gentlemen and ladies, and we're gonna have to start making some choices on replacing that VOTEC, because it's 6 years old now, this next year. And it's, when we do that, that might be something we want to talk about with whatever provider we go with next, is the ability to, hey, oh no, we're seeing a huge line here we didn't anticipate, bringing another check-in unit out and having it synced up on the spot.
that would be another thing, is that like if we were to take another check-in out to a location, we would need to have on spot in order to. If this one to sync up and go ahead and dump in all of the information into the server and then the next one sync up with.
Okay. Mr. Fellows, go ahead, forgive us for getting off.
Okay, and then I'd like to remind the court and commission that the use of erasable pencils in the polling place are illegal according to state law. And we got a problem with that in the city. of Whitney. But
We sent nothing but pins.
We only send pens out.
in the city of Whitney election in 2019, there were 35 ballots that were going out to the election.
Yeah,
So
that's,
yeah, so that's
that,
that's an issue that needs to be education, I guess.
Well, yeah, that 2019 city of Whitney ran their own election. We didn't. And so we only run elections if an entity is contracted with us to do so. And we very much tried to comply with the law. I promise you, because no one here looked good jumpsuit orange.
That election was one of our last elections with the old equipment and paper ballots. This new equipment requires that we use blue and black in it. So
Good, because
we haven't had an actual city or school election that they've actually held on their own with this new equipment. Each time they've had it, we've been landed with it.
But duly noted, thank you.
But yes, this
Okay.
coming year, we will definitely let them know that.
cool. And with the emphasis now on paper ballots, it sounds like the push for that, it's something, make sure we're clear about that.
Yeah,
You get,
we don't want to use pencil with the scanners.
Shall I call them and see if they can log back on, or
do you know the Martys? If you would, please?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Marty, can you all log back on to Zoom? Trying to? Okay. Can you
What's
try
that?
a different telephone?
Or
Okay.
they did speakerphone, if you've got them on phone,
Yeah,
I mean, you know,
I'm good with it. You want to do it on speakerphone, we're
Yeah.
happy to.
I mean, the
Okay,
whole,
if y'all want to do it on speakerphone, if you cannot connect, let me know, okay?
I mean, you sent the email, I'm gonna call it good.
yeah. Is she trying to log in again?
Hmm?
Is she trying to log in again?
He's tried 3 times and they were on previously.
Yeah.
We can just do it on.
Yeah, they just want to do speakerphone, that's fine.
Let's do that.
Okay, I want to give you to the. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
That's Marty Horn.
And Mr. Horn, I apologize. You
Yeah,
have
yes,
some-
Marty, are you there?
As always, Art, successful, you know.
This is Eddie.
Eddie, my name is Justin Lewis, County Judge and Presiding Officer of the Elections Commission. You're on speakerphone, and since you guys have signed up this morning and are having some difficulty with the Zoom, we'd see if you'd be agreeable to tell them what you got over the telephone today.
Absolutely, be glad to.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
So, we recently and so wanted to vote in the primaries earlier this year. And since I had not received my voter registration, I went ahead and was forced to vote provisionally in the primary, which is understood. I've worked elections before, so I understand how that works.
Okay.
I was never notified if my vote counted, so I had to call in to find out. And in fact, it did count. So still disappointed there that nobody told me. But then we, for the midterm election, we requested mail-in ballots, and my wife and I would not be in Texas for the election. In person, we took our application to the elections office there in Hillsborough on the first day that they would receive them. And we were the only ones in there outside of the election employees in the office. And I was kind of surprised that no one took the initiative to even look at our application or review it quickly, scan it or something for accuracy. Anyway, our applications were later rejected, we found out, because we didn't specify which election we were applying for. Okay, that's on us. We should have been more diligent on filling that out. However, we could have found that out if someone would have reviewed it. But be that as it may, they were rejected. And so after we had not received our applications, after we found out that they were rejected, I called Andre Montgomery, who's the attorney for the Office of Secretary of State there in Austin. And he told me on the phone that I should have been notified of the rejection of those applications, and new applications should have been sent to us, which didn't happen. So hence we didn't get to vote, sir. And after several conversations with Aaron Torres, who I assume runs that election office there in Hillsborough, all he could do was unfortunately offer me a pretty weak apology of I'm sorry. And in the same breath, as I was complaining about that I wasn't going to be able to vote, which I really wanted to since we knew how important this midterm election was, he said, well, Mr. Horn, it wasn't just yours. There's a whole stack of rejections here that applicants were apparently not notified of. So I'm probably not the only person that didn't, or my wife and I are probably not the only folks that didn't get to vote in that election because of the lack of notification to sending out new applications. So I was really disappointed, sir, and I feel like that. I don't know if Aaron's running that office or somebody else is running that office, but they really dropped the ball on that deal. And something as important as that, you would think that they would be aware of the fact that people need to be notified if there's a problem with their application.
I agree wholeheartedly with you, Mr. Paul. That's you should have been notified of it, and that you weren't is a problem that needs to be addressed. I want to thank you for bringing it to our attention, because you are the first person that's brought it to this commission's attention at this point.
When I talked to Andre Montgomery in Austin, he said, unfortunately, Eddie, there's not anything that I can do about it because this is not an enforcement office.
Mm-hmm.
All you can do is file a complaint. And I was going to file a complaint, and then I found out about this meeting this morning, and I thought, well, better to just
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Better to just let you guys know in person what happened here. I mean, I can still put a complaint in writing and put it in the file if you need me to, but this really happened, and it's really disappointing. And I'm just so, I vote in every election. We used to live in Dallas County, and I've worked the elections. We lived in Harris County for a while. I was a delegate to the state GOP convention. I mean, I'm pretty involved, and I know that, I know how important it is to vote, and I'm not just somebody that doesn't understand the process. But since this mail-in ballot provision happened, I guess, as a result that we started providing mail-in ballots to everybody as a result of the previous elections. I thought, golly, hopefully I'll get to vote, but I didn't get to. So that's all really I have to say.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you bringing it to our attention because without knowledge of it, we can't correct it. So obviously there's a deficiency somewhere in our processes that needs to be correct. Our goal is now to track down that deficiency and rectify it before next election. So thank you. I apologize on behalf of Hill County that you weren't able to vote. But again, I thank you for bringing that to our attention so we can get it corrected.
Okay, I think the correction is just good training. Really, that's what the correction is, training people to know what to do. And that would be a good step forward. But I appreciate what you said, and hopefully we'll see what happens going forward, right?
Yeah, I think so, Mr. Warren. Appreciate your comments today.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. So on that one, Aaron. Just
Drop the ball and wholeheartedly accept that on the
Okay.
not getting the guys in tune with that one.
So going forward on this, you're training those guys that when you get an application in, and I think Mr. Horn makes a really good suggestion here. If somebody takes the time to walk into your office, just give it a quick review because it'll save you a butt chewing later. I know it's on them to fix it. We're not giving legal advice down there, but just have the guys train them to scan it so that, all right, they look at the thing. If something's missing, if something obvious is missing, just let the person correct it right there on the spot. It saves everybody time and trouble what they're doing. As for the notification of the rejected applications, and quite frankly, notification on provisionals, we need to put a process together on how that's going to work. I don't know the timeline off the top of my head of the election code. Do you know what the timeline is to notify somebody of the rejection or acceptance of the provisional ballot?
I believe it was the second.
The second, okay. So we're going to have to find a way, so it's after.
Yeah, it's after everything's done, we've already done our canvas.
Okay. So on a
Look, you're
provisional-
talking about two different things. One, you asking about notification of provisional or, provisional, okay. Yeah, provisional occurs after the canvas notification, whether it did or did not count.
Correct.
And then I don't know on the notification of when for request for mail-in.
That one was new, that was something that changed up recently, and I was unaware that it had that it's what you do and then trigger to send out.
Okay, so the system can be set up to do this.
Yes, it is.
All right,
That's what I was thinking was that it's,
okay.
When we go through the mail, we have, okay, these are good to go. These are good for the next election, these are rejected.
Zelensky's gonna be Person of the Year on Time Magazine.
Who are we talking to over there? There's an iPhone on there. I don't know who that is. So, okay, we'll mute that, please. Anyway,
We have what we call a green sheet and we reject a towel. So the person doesn't have to give it multiple times. We go ahead and look at every single thing that they have to bring back in.
So let me
maybe
know what
we
they
come
need
up
to
with something like that, like, and it's just a checkbox, like to make sure, just so they don't say, you didn't tell me that this is what I had to have. So maybe just like a check sheet that says, hey, this is what you have to have. I don't know if that's something that the state already has or.
since the state basically sets the code for what a mail-in ballot is, request, and a set up code for notification and all that, is there not anything provided by SOS, like a standard tracking? Because I thought there was that you could log in once you
Ballot tracking.
ballot
I
tracking.
know once we get the ballot out, whenever I generate their labels, there is an envelope number that is generated by the state automatically.
Okay,
And that's the number that apparently tracks.
okay. And do you operate that?
No, it's automatically generated whenever I.
No, but the tracking part of it, like where you log in and all that.
It's just where we put in, say the ballot has been, we've received the application, we've sent the ballot out. Whenever I generate those lists, the labels for those, it automatically generates, they've been sent out. And then when it comes back in, we're scanning them back in and showing that they've been received back.
When you scan it in, where do you put that information into? Into
It's
Teams?
into each.
So
It's like an individualized. Say like you request your ballot by mail, I go in and open your request line for this.
Mhm.
That ballot, and it's a ballot tracker. So I've sent it out.
okay,
It's
So-
been received back.
you scan it and put that information, but you're putting that information into Teams, which is run by the state. So if somebody logs in to check their ballot, they're logging into the state's
I would-
software. Yeah.
That.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's like a new conversation.
there are some problems with these statewide tracking. Mr. Horn contacted the Secretary of State. And if you don't know your VUID number or your date of birth, which you should know your date of birth,
You should know that.
then to access that tracking number, you have to have your complete driver's license, which is not required. I mean, there's 2 or 3 items that are required by the state to let you access that information if you don't know your VUID birthday. So that's what problem he ran into. It wasn't entered correctly. And so it's nothing good.
Yeah. Thank you.
The other thing,
Yeah.
so if someone votes provisionally and their vote is rejected or accepted, are they automatically then, if they live in the limits, are they automatically sent a voter registration card at that time?
The application that they signed up for on the provisional affidavit is used as their application, so sign up, so I can turn around and use that and or go ahead and get them signed up here with us.
So it'll be done automatically without any action on the part of the. All right.
My other curiosity question on that, on the acceptance rejected and approved and ballot, it's gonna be up by December 2nd or whatever the timeline is. How is that notification going out? Is that an automatic tickler in your system or is that something you manually have to do? Okay, and then what's our process gonna be for checking and making sure we've done that going forward?
At this point, when we have the provisionals, we can go provision by provisional, just draw each one, have it flipped, and then do what they're on the and make sure each one, provisional on what we have has a
Okay,
I would, because when we canvassed the primary, that was one of the things that we worked before I canvassed it, was being sure that which ones counted, which ones didn't, and were those letters sent out. And we verified at that time that yes, these have all been notified. So I would say, a general election, since Commissioner's Court canvasses that you would say, hey, before we take this vote, I'd like just a good follow-up from election administrators, show me the proof that every provisional ballot, that's the one thing that's going to be changing the outcome of this election, has been notified.
yeah, we've done.
It's not a requirement by code, it's a requirement by code for the EA to send that out, but
It's no requirement by code for us whatsoever. You're 100% correct. That deal being said, we asked numerous questions. It's not been a question we've asked in the past. We invite anybody to show up when we do our canvassing. It's pretty intense. So, but then getting 4 guys at the table, including myself, asking questions about it. So it does become interesting from time to time. That being said, that is something that we're going to require going forward about. Is say, hey, what are these notices sent out? How many were sent? How many were rejected? How many accepted? That will be part of our inquiry going forward. Again, as I think we found out previously, the canvassing is a requirement. So we're still going to want the answers to the question. We'll canvass those. All right, what else we got?
You're on behalf of Susan Swilling.
Yes, ma'am.
You pay referrals during this election.
Yes.
And I personally reached out to Karen. Always very receptive. I want to just see if we can get a better process in place to make less errors on these sheets.
Okay.
We're still holding a few election checks upstairs in the vault. We don't have W-4s for certain people. And then some people don't want to give you their social security number, and it is required, even if they don't make $600, it is best practice to capture those socials. So Aaron, is there anything that our office could do to support you better for this process?
The recommendations you guys might have and how we best practices, because we'd be really open to that.
I mean,
I'm saying like a simple sheet, because I had several people who were, did not want to have a direct draft, wanted a hard copy. And the general election worker is paid for by the county, not by the party. So if the county has processes are like, no, we have to, in order to pay anybody out of tax revenue, we have to do this, a simple little sheet that, with county seal, county treasurer signs, but this is what thou shalt do by code in order to be paid, so that we could just give that to anybody wanting to work election and go like, okay, in order to get paid, this is the process that the county has to follow. And if at that time it's like, that's unacceptable, I'm not willing to do that, then it's like, okay, that's fine. Then you either won't get paid or we need to,
So this issue right now with these people not wanting to do social security, let's just take that one little subset. How's that going about? Are you sending some kind of pay sheet to them to fill out?
There's a payroll sheet that goes in
In the package?
each packet, sent out the W-4s and the direct deposits in there as well. To each one, some of them filled them out, some of them didn't. We turn in what we have. They tell us which one they don't have the information on.
Do they just turn all that paperwork in election night Would it,
All in the- It's just all the paperwork.
would it be helpful if we sent that stuff in advance? We know who our election judges and workers are.
Mhm.
Generally. speaking.
Clerks might change once or twice, but our judges.
Yeah, and sending those, notice to those folks ahead of time, go, hey, this week before the election, we want this stuff in. The rationale of having it 7 days before the election, sending it upstairs, giving them time to look at it, and go, hey, this is missing, this needs X, Y, Z, and hopefully correct that by election night. Maybe that's something we can all work together, and do. Would that work for y'all?
It will. I can put together packets for you and do it over
Okay.
a couple of receipts that didn't have enough forms and it has been a lot to use the same thing.
Yes.
You can't do that either. It has to go in person. So anything I can do to help support your office to make this flow easier.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, that we do training, like, you know, we also, you know, but just make that, you know, if you get, you know, you're gonna have to come, you know, do the checklist, or get paid, you have to have training, either through here or through this year. And, you know, just run a simple Excel checklist, and like, you have to have your W-4 filled out, you have to have this filled out, you have to have this filled out. And it's, yeah, on that one, it's gonna be you to do it. I mean, I can certainly help facilitate with judges and clerks, let them know that has to be done, but just as a part of training. Okay, first thing, before we do anything else in training, we're gonna fill out forms, folks. And if you don't fill out this form, you can't get paid.
Fill it out before we start the training.
Right, and verify that you've gone through the training, that you have filled out your W-4, and that, you know, and that is all done. And then you know, and it will, like, if you've got like a simple sheet, I mean, when I'm recruiting judges beforehand and stuff, I'll say, hey, be sure your clerks know that this is, for the general election, at least this is what's gonna happen. For primaries, it's different since we do the payment, but.
And then we also have two election workers that have the same name. There's two sets of them. So we've been also, so juniors and seniors.
Mhm.
So if we can really make sure on the yellow sheets that it is indicated junior, senior, or something that has to be done to pay the person correctly and not pay the other person.
As you know, the county's got constitutional provisions about giving the thing of value to somebody that didn't earn it. And we can't prove that earned. And again, we're not going to make payments to anybody that didn't follow all the rules and regs that we have in place. So yeah, giving them a little better training about what's required up front will help them get a paycheck.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't want anybody to feel like for
No, and if for some reason they have to, you know, no, in order to get paid, you've got to provide that. And like, well, I'm not willing to do that, then, okay, that's fine, no problem. Either you don't get paid, you're volunteer, yeah, you still work, you're gonna volunteer, but, or you can.
volunteers because of our IRS issues. Yeah, I don't know that we can allow them to volunteer.
I know previously others have had volunteers that just written them a letter stating that they wanted them back to.
That might be acceptable. I can see that as
Yeah.
documented.
Yeah,
Yeah, because otherwise, if we don't have that, absent some kind of documentation of that donation to the county, which we have to willfully accept and members for. I could see us having an issue with the IRS on employees.
but let's work that on that cut sheet as well, and like I said, instead of, when we do trainings, do this well. You know, a month for not this weekend before, you know, we'll get that when we get to reports, but yeah, okay.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's something we can include. Anybody else for open forums? Well, yes. Oh,
So, did I understand that the election law has changed, and so the judges that set up the day before are allowed to be paid for that time?
no, not to my knowledge.
No,
If it's happened, I'm not aware of it.
There's nothing that's true.
Oh, yeah, of course.
All right.
the only,
So we still allow unpaid labor anyway.
yeah, absolutely, the only thing that can be paid is the picking up of equipment and returning of equipment. But there is, I think it is specifically in code that there is no time allocated for setup. And there's a maximum of, yeah, 14 hours on election day.
They get up to an hour before the polls open and 2 hours after. the polls open.
I think it was an hour before polls, and some people were thinking, oh, so you get paid to set up. And it's like, it's just only on election day. So.
Good question. No, thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
I wanna, as an election judge, part-time election judge, want to say that we need more training. And
Okay.
so, more practical training on, you know, so you can ask. Or you can ask a stupid question, like what about John Doe just moved from wherever, similar to the problem you run through. And so everybody's busy, but more county would be really appreciated by everybody. And that way, if somebody has COVID or something, it's up for their
Yeah.
duties. You can have it easily replaced. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention, and I'd already mentioned it, because we had a couple of high school kids, and I think they should be, that work as election clerks, and I think they should be recognized some way they perform, and I think Will may have a letter
Okay.
We're still not, yeah.
in his life. That's my whole purpose of coming here.
A question for you on that, Haley. How do you feel if we started more than a month in advance of the election day training? Do you feel that would be too far in advance, or are you comfortable with that?
I'm very comfortable with that. That should be 90 days.
Yeah. That month, that last 30 days for election is so crammed full of deadlines for everything we've got going on. If there's a way that we can back it up before that point, in 90 days, if that's good with the group, it's fine with me. And just starting that before that 30 days for the election with more intense training, I think might be something
And
choosable.
then let me also mention Liz Schneider.
She's online right now. Hey, Liz.
And, she mentioned to me that we should have a syllabus written out as to what needs to be taught. And that would be good, because some people are gonna catch some stuff. And I know people have told me so, and I just, it just goes back.
Yeah, and it's you do nothing, all of a sudden you play Super Bowl on that day, and you could sit, I mean, we could do 90, we'll talk about 30 days, probably a little bit better, just because there's so much information, that even seasoned folks like, wait a minute, I'm somewhere in code. Wait, I gotta go look that up to be sure it's correct. That you can't retain all of the 10,000 things that it is covered under code, but we try to cover as much as possible. But yeah, I think one of the things that we would be good, we got the equipment, you got the hardware stuff. That's one hurdle to be sure you're comfortable with. But then this just election, then I think we've got our county processes, we got to get some things straightened up. Then there's the basics of code, and then there's but what if, and it's almost like a round table discussion to say, well, what if somebody does this? Oh, this is covered. I mean, it's hard to get your brain to understand process. There can be so many little nuances that
We need a good training program.
So when you were saying that a while ago, you were, when you asked the question about more training on that, it sounded like you were referring to like the actual instances that pop up on that, like throughout the day.
Not just in
Georgia,
yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, the Secretary of State has actually, I'm like, I don't think it's very long, available. You have poll watchers training, which is actually for everybody to watch, it covers the things that you're talking about, and it has election worker stuff online. It goes into a lot of detail.
It's a great thing. Nobody's
Something you can do.
Liz Schneider has written a bunch of notes on this, and she would be a good person for you to ask or consult with.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's what makes you think of doing.
That's all I've got.
All right, if that's it for the forum, then we're gonna move along to approve minutes for September 14, 2022. Does our secretary have the minutes with us? Okay, we're gonna move along then. Number 3, discussion and action, election administrator report, election administrator. What do you got for us today?
So quick rundown as far as numbers versus voter out, actual turnout, tabulation showed one number, our voter history showed the other, and we're only about 3 off. So,
More voters than votes, or more votes than voters.
More votes than history, 3 more than. I had 3 more votes than history. And I believe that's going to be due to limited ballots.
Okay. So the limited ballots weren't entered into the history?
There were some that I know that they came in. They may have actually filled out a provisional envelope instead of the actual.
So that's why they're not in history.
Yes.
Okay, I got you.
So we gotta find those guys and make sure they get put in correctly.
Uh-huh.
Right now I'm working on getting the provisional history put in. I got the mail done yesterday. And then we're gonna be working on the Liberty ballots, getting those in. As far as the actual tabulation goes, did the reconciliation on it. That came up square. It was perfect. Wow.
Good deal.
We did. We've already done our partial manual count, that came up squared away very well, everything matched tabulation, we did our hand count. That's already been turned into stage, precinct by precinct report been turned into stage, of course, canvas has already been done to stage. As far as that goes, it's just cleaning up, getting all the history input for these last bits. And I'm just trying to see where those last bits are.
Okay.
Outside of that, and then just doing all corrections on any and all statement of residence or any other provisionals that were accepted or rejected, and finding the coding issues there and everything.
I was gonna say, yeah, but no, you got at least one coding issue with the parks, and that's, they're, what she's telling me is that, she's voted in Aquila her whole life, and now suddenly they haven't voted in Abbott. And, we've asked already, I guess I should tell the group this, I've already asked Aaron to go back to that entire county road, go down that entire lane and double check that what we have for the actual school district boundaries between Abbott and
Well,
Aquila.
that is something also I want to get guys on, since this next year is off year, we only have 60 schools, I want them to start going through the cities and all the street and stuff and checking with the map, making sure all of that fits where it's supposed to be. Because that is just, it's mainly where it's a boundary line, where the road splits for a second and then goes right back.
I had a couple of folks, the same issue, that Aquila Abbott ISD, and it is, it's, everybody forgets there's a crisscrossing there, but.
Yeah, there was one on FM 1304 we had a couple days ago. It's a quote. And then there's this sliver of Abbott and then back and forth.
Yeah, I had that talk with Frank Urbanowski, who was on the board of Aquila for 40 some odd years. And Frank was telling me, the lines over here. I was like, Frank, I'm looking at the map, and that's not what the map shows. He was, the map's wrong. I was like, all right, Frank, I believe you.
This is what
But we need to get that straightened out, because if we get the wrong map we're operating off of, we'll never get this right.
Right.
So it's been called down to the Heart Texas Council of Governments, who's just a repository. They don't make the maps. The repository give me some maps in electronic format, so I can send those to the school district to make sure that, hey, we're working on the same set of maps here, aren't we?
Yeah, between tax ID, ISD and that vote, yeah, that's very important.
Start at the basics and work our way back up.
Any kind of
Because we've made a mistake, we're gonna fix it. We just make sure we get the right information. to Fix
any
it.
kind of updates like that you go through and make sure you post it, okay?
Oh, hell, heck, yeah.
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 Yeah, but John, if you met John, well, yeah, John is great. If you'd be kind of go-to guy on that, when we have mapping issues that we find, it's rare, but occasionally something
Yeah,
comes
he's got
up.
us online through Eagle View, so we can actually see all of the.
Good deal. I know when Karen McClendon finds issues with the mapping 911 addressing, she communicates directly with John Williams and they get it resolved.
Yeah, when we get there.
Mhm.
She can't figure out.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything else, administrative report? Party chair report, Mr. Orr, you've got the floor.
Oh, and kind of the same thing we've had with open forum. I've had several people who had made requests for mail-ins and got no response. I've asked them to send me an email. The only one that did come in was a lady named Barbara Heyman, who said, as a resident of Hill County, I've called the election administrator phone number 3 times, written 1 letter requesting mail-in ballot, yet to receive a ballot. I'm on chemo and cannot always depend on feeling going to the poll. I would appreciate help resolving this matter. I've had several other people who, contacted, called, never got a response back, sent in requests or said they did. So I think that it seems like there was more this time than any other election.
Mhm.
So why do you think that is?
We each have one on this,
Is there a voicemail when I call your number and I don't get you? Does it not go to a voicemail?
I don't think there's a lot of times you
What's
get
that?
in there trying to listen to voicemail and leave it, there's stuff.
That's- yeah, that's-
You never, that's the problem with phones, is that there's phone calls just keep coming in, piling up right after, you're still on the phone, it's like, okay, click a call coming through, oh, third call coming through. It's like, I can't get off and get to these others.
So if it's a functional issue with the equipment, let's address that with IT people because they run the phone system.
I know.
And let them know that we need either multiple rollover lines, because sometimes you have 3 physical phones with 6 to 8 lines. The other thing is, each one of those lines needs to have a mailbox on it. That mailbox needs to be checked on a regular basis. I mean, I did have complaints about when the mailbox is full. I get it if that was one day or one home they call, but if they call repeatedly, like I got a commissioner, I dearly love this guy. But every time I call him, his mailbox is full. So the first thing I do, I get hold of him is, hey, you should probably clear that out so the rest of the world can hold you. I'm understanding of your time, not everybody else is. It's one of those things that, you know, everything we do about communication. We have to communicate with the people, and if we're not communicating, if they can't get hold of us, they're not gonna listen to us, you know, they can't hear what we have to say. And I think one of the first things we talked about is, you know, hey, getting these phone issues fixed, making sure that when people call in, they get a voice, they don't get a phone tree, they get a voice, because whether it's right then or they call back to them, it's something we've got to prioritize. I was talking about communication, you know, we rolled out the vote my next one. Did you have any participation in that this time?
That I know the call volume was down, and especially the foot traffic coming in the office, it's tapered down. Since that rolled out. Because yeah, normally it's just an ever revolving door, people coming in and asking where they go, but we didn't have theirs in this.
Interesting.
We called them all before they.
I'll give you some you.
Thank you for taking one for the team down there. I appreciate
No,
it.
we made credits of every place that somebody voted and just stuck it on the, we put one on the door, one on the front door. And then each of my girls had one because we got calls all day long.
We
And
feel
if
the
they-
difference.
We didn't have a problem, but our problem was, I don't have a computer. to
Yeah.
Look your name up to see what precinct you voted. So if you don't know what precinct you're in, then I can't tell you where to vote. You're gonna have to call the elections office. Yeah,
Yeah, again, I think making that tool up online where we can see where we
Yeah.
go is going to be a huge thing in the future, getting that put and.
And just pushing, I mean, I tried to push as hard as I could the votetexas.org,
Yeah,
you know, because that is, to me, is one of the best simple tools for people to like, well, that will tell you if you're registered and tell you where you're
Yeah.
registered. Well, that's not what I'm supposed to be. Well, that's where you are registered with the state.
yeah.
Go in there early and get it fixed.
And the other thing too is them still getting used to precinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
We talked about
now we have it down to 13, there's no reason for you to bother consolidating.
Right, no, these will be
Open, so this is be great.
going forward. If we got to retrain folks, but this will be it.
Yeah, as long as we know that information.
and we're gonna take some responsibility as a whole on that. Couple things we've done, obviously from the county side, moving you guys around.
Yeah.
By the time we have the next election, you'll be in your permanent home, at least over the next 20 years, and that'll be done. But on top of that, you know, redistricting was a more deep and intense process we've ever done before, and we changed some longstanding lines, and it has caused some confusion, and we have made some mistakes, and we need to address those as we find them and get it knocked out. Nobody wants to ever deny anybody their right to vote, deny their ability to have their voice heard. But again, too, we ask the voter, check where you're registered at. Don't just take it for granted that you're registered. And we hear, well, you've heard this like this, yeah.
The one.
Yeah, you can't give the data.
This election was, well, I moved from this other county, I moved from this other state, I just started on with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we heard a lot of that, yes.
Yeah. But in regards to certainly the people with the mail-in ballot requests that aren't getting any phone call back, you know, or, you know, the rejection, or then the mail-out ballots went out so late. But that was something I know we talked about a lot, that you couldn't get the language from West ISD.
Correct.
And we,
Didn't know they called.
This is an issue we've had to pass,
Yeah.
something we need to look
Well,
into.
I mean, as a representing, you know, 80% of the voters in this county is Republicans. If we, that's bull for mail-in ballots to go out that late. I understand you can't send out ballots incorrect, but if you've got to put that in your language, if they're going to contract with you or lesson learned, that said, thou shall have your final language to me by August 15th, period. And then, you know, there will be no change or whatever, pick whatever date that is. Because I'm thinking, I figured that somewhere around that time is when everything has to be finalized for ballots anyway. And said, you know, be sure in that contract language on that date, your final language has to be in. There will be no changes to language after that date. And it's like, well, we got our attorney. Like, I'm sorry, this is the contract we signed. That's the language that's going out in the ballot. If you didn't do your due diligence, that's not your fault, because their inability to do their due diligence put the voters of Hill County at a great disadvantage, and that's wrong. Well, that's, let's get that fixed so forevermore. And that any contract, like whatever that last date the ballot has to be finalized, that's no changes after that point, you know, because, you know, you send me out the proofs, I'm looking at, you know, candidates' names and everything, everybody's looking at their stuff, just because their attorney suddenly finally get back to the email that they sent 40 days ago and said, well, then that word really should be like that tough. The process is more important, you know, it's got to get out there. The not responding to people calling requesting mail-in ballots is voter disenfranchising. It's 100% unacceptable. There's no shape. I understand people with some of the changes in election integrity of when you request a mail-in ballot, you have to add the additional information, and if the voter doesn't do that, it's, you know, the problem of tightening the noose. It makes it more constrictive. It makes it more constrictive. And a lot of people were frustrated with that. I mean, but that's not your fault. That's legislature's fault. But they have to be notified, sorry, your ballot, your request is not correct. You have to do this, and to be sure they get that big, because like I said, so many people I've run into who are on chemo or they got COVID, or, you know, these people want to vote. And that's the whole point. As much as the talk of fraud with mail-in ballot, the point is trying to be sure that those people, if for some reason who can't physically get there, they're not denying their right to vote. That's the cornerstone of our country. So if they're not on a phone number, you can't answer that. You know, it's excuse, but that's unacceptable. And for this, whatever we have, you know, and still, you know, technically, you know, man, you're so good at that. We've still got to find a way to get you to be a better person manager. You've got 2 folks now at your staff, but we've got to find ways to get you to delegate more.
It's getting better at this. I have to let go a lot of the time, so that's.
So we've had a lot of conversations about this.
It's getting better. I will agree with you. It is definitely getting better having 2 more there that can take. This
Yeah.
That's gotten easier. But yes, there is a lot of stuff like all this.
Yeah.
I dealt with this year. That is definitely something that is going to get done.
Yeah. When you hire somebody in the business world and they're to do a certain job, you know, you give them training and then you let them do the work. If they cannot do the work, then you try to go, did we miss something in training? Did you, you know, and try to correct it. And then at that point, if they still don't do the job, it's like, you were hired to do this job. You're not doing that job. I got to get somebody else in. You know, it's not personal. It's just, it's process. So I appreciate the seriousness that you take of like wanting to control everything. But certainly as we know, when you get close to a general election, and it doesn't matter how much information we put out, it's the general public. Everybody's going to remember a certain thing other than what really happened. It takes a lot of extra hand holding, not to everybody, but to certain folks. It takes, and that is the job. The job is to be sure that the voter gets the, you know, can cast the ballot. So, you know, I've done work with you to try to get, you know, help the paperwork, try to do anything you can to help. But, you know, I can't run your office. That's your job.
Phone lines, like, you know, whenever you switched over, we all have our own phone number, but if you call 582-4000, it rings on everybody's phone, and it just keeps, we can have 8 people on the phone at one time.
Yep.
In our office. Yes, so we just have the phones, I think that they can solve. Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes to my, yes, it's on the phone. And then,
Okay. You might go give us this last one. Oh.
So yeah, there's, in talking with my judges and all around, they're, technically know the answer, but there's still times when you get, it's election day and things are going and you will lose your temper even with judges and stuff at times. And that's not acceptable either. And that's, I think hopefully, what's in trying to, you got to staff it to the folks to get them trained up to handle. I mean, because I understand, it's, it's nothing, then it's everything at once. And everything is most important on election day and early voting. But yeah, that's, we've got our new voting systems down. We've got our redistricting done. We've got so much that we have improved. That's our last step. I feel like is just a little more training, getting that more proactive. And then let's change that language and the whatever contract you have if people want to contract you for running their election, which I prefer. I definitely want these schools and cities to run through our elections. And then, let your guys run more and be sure that they've give them more rope. Even to the point of I'm sure through county training programs, there's probably something about how to be a delegating leader or there's got to be some stuff like that. I know there is in private sector. So I would recommend seriously go and take find some leadership classes, some management classes, particularly on, how do you delegate? Because delegation is a art and it is hard to learn. But in order to if you want to be successful, you have to do it. And you have to train yourself how to do it, how to do it, correctly. And I'm speaking from experience. I'm the same guy. And yeah, it's actually kind of amazing when you give gold chain to people. They usually do pretty darn well. And there's something that once in a while there's things that have to be corrected, but by and large, 98% of it works just fine. So that's just part of your professional. I never heard back from you regarding Alec Tabor. Alec Tabor was serving in the military in Missouri, requested to mail in.
Dickie had taken care of.
Okay.
Did not ever see it come back.
Okay, because I had texted him afterwards to be sure that he had received it, but he did. Could you just verify with me that Alec Tabor did receive a mail-in ballot?
Yeah, I'll be back there.
Okay. But yeah, after that, like I said, I think we've got historical data now for our voting precincts. What is the turnout? Even though our head count is even, our voter turnout is still even, like 13 is still, as much as we tried to spread out, is still super heavy. So I think for the future, we need to definitely proactive. I think I'll be happy to sit with you and look at the numbers to see what the breakpoint seems to be of needing 2 check-ins. 13 for sure. I think 10. Yeah, 10 still at Itasca.
I think it's something to look at too.
Yeah.
That Itasca was a perfect storm. You had school board, you had city, you had county. I think that maybe you don't have all those things at once. You don't have as much of a turnout, and that's going to apply to anybody. That being said, I think those two seem to have higher participation rates in the last 2 elections than your other areas in the county. No offense to anybody, it's just the numbers how they check out. So going forward, I think we need to plan on those 2 for sure, having a second check-in, and then look at our other precincts and hey, do we have a city, county, school board election, especially you get the southeast end. Let's say you've got city of Mount Palm, you've got the city of Hubbard, the school district of Mount Palm, and school district of Hubbard all having elections at one time along with ours. Second check-in time.
Yeah. But I think, we've got enough numbers now to look at and we can make that call and try to be more proactive with that. But I think we've done a good job of getting our revised polling locations. I love having Hilco. I think the Civic Center in Hubbard worked really well. There is still some confusion between Penelope and Mount Malone folks, which we knew that was still going to be happening. But I'm actually surprised that I haven't had more. There's the primary. That was a crazy day. because nobody knew it, but for the general, it seemed to, there's still some, but it was far less than I had thought, which was good. So, yeah, like I said, by the time we get to our next round of elections, hopefully folks are aware and,
It definitely sounded better.
You're always gonna have a couple.
oh, yeah.
The majority are starting.
Yeah, and that's, I assume, I didn't go check, did you put notices at the old polling locations that your polling location is here now?
I covered several of them,
Okay,
because I did it last time, so I did it.
yeah, I did it in the primary. That's, you, with extra folks. Be consumer or customer oriented, even for this next election, let's do it one more time,
I
maybe.
think so. Yeah, if we do it, let's make it the last time we do it this
Yeah,
next time.
yeah.
I covered this time, I covered behind you that night and got the ones you didn't get and plus some others. Probably polling places we've used 2 times back. And
Right.
those, again, just had notices, I'm there, stick them up. Yeah, I'm gonna do that one more time.
Just one more time for the next, like I probably will do it for the next primary or whatever, next big election. But after 2 years from now, but after that, then we've done more than our due diligence. And like I said, that's, it's not, technically by law, you don't have to because it's not combined, but that's just.
Yeah, I still wouldn't put up the notices because I knew I was gonna get the flood phone
Yeah.
calls that day and just get it done and be done with it. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's like, why did you close the polling location early, 2 hours?
I got this phone call.
Yeah.
I knew who that was.
Yeah, and it's like, and then like. Oh, once you found out, but
Because I was scrambling. trying to get a hold
What
of
are you
them.
Yeah, I called Aaron about that. And,
Yeah.
Did you really, this happened?
no, that's what I was like, wait a minute, tell me where. I'm at the fire station. Which fire station?
They called me back and said, I
Oh,
apologize.
so, yeah, so it's, yeah, and like I said, you'd have a staff of 200 people on election day, don't have enough, I understand that, but yeah,
Below 100 is.
below 100.
Love people, love people.
Working.
Yeah.
No, yeah, no, I mean, we're all going the right direction, but but that's, I think just, going forward, delegation, man, delegation, get those people doing the work for you, farm out as much as possible to where you don't, I mean, it's a small shop, but both those guys need to be doing your job and you need to be the overseer answering questions. So,
I recommend help specialists, one of those people that specialize in mail ballots, they do that. Now, before we select an election,
Well,
it's very confusing, give me, I'm gonna check.
I appreciate that, and I would say the size of our office, they have to be a specialist and everything.
Yeah.
They cannot just know one thing, everybody has to know everybody's job here.
or like, there's another one, like, hey, be a little more proactive on social media or ways to get out, when we're getting close to the next election, hey, are you gonna want to do a mail-in ballot? Be sure you're aware that laws change, you gotta put this and this, and be sure you mark which election, otherwise we can't get you a ballot, or you're gonna get rejected. We hate rejecting people. I mean, little fun things.
Fill one out.
Yeah.
These are the areas that you must highlight and check in. Fill out.
Well, or even, I mean, this is where, you become an engineer.
Because like even with the ones after the form change, we started trying to make sure we're highlighting all the areas.
Yeah, these mark this, yeah.
This must be filled out. Everything else.
Main reasons you send a mail-in ballot back.
Rejection.
Yeah, what is the main reason? Is it-
They didn't sign it, they didn't put their driver's license or social on there, which is the one. They didn't select a party if it's during a party election, or they didn't just select election at all.
Definitely have a check sheet and just check what they need
Well,
that I sent out good.
But it's,
Like when you reject it, not when they, I mean, you can see, this is what you didn't do, and this has to be.
okay, good deal. All right, our other party chair is not here today, I believe he's a sick loved one, is what you told me, or he told you, I should say. All right, then, that moves us on to our last item agenda. Before we do that, I anticipate we'll have our next meeting, the first quarter of 23. Wow, that rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? So if everybody would give me some dates that look good for them. If you guys like Wednesday mornings, that seems to work in everybody's schedule. We'll continue doing it on that date. However, for some reason that's not the case, please let us know when we find dates that work better.
yeah, for me, it would be towards the end of the month, or you said, which, first quarter, not January necessarily.
Not just, yeah, I know January can be tough for a lot of people for it to year. February seems to work better.
Yeah, I don't have anything in February, so
Well,
anytime in February works.
So we'll set it right now for everybody's here. How about the 15th? I got a jury trial. I think. Who will be doing that?
You have a jury trial
Well,
What?
allegedly, we'll see if it makes.
for,
Okay, so you have to understand the county judge about this county.
no, I understand you do probate.
You don't understand that I do all the probate here. I do
Yes.
jury trials, I
Yeah.
do contested, I do uncontested, I take care of all of it. I still hold trials over criminal matters. The county
Yeah.
judge is a judge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, you guys gotta quit eating, drinking Kool-Aid on that. All right, so
I don't drink Kool-Aid.
good. All right, so I can do the 8th or the 22nd. 22nd is Ash Wednesday, if that doesn't offend anybody. I'm still a work day here. So, how does the morning of the 22nd sound to the group?
Sure.
Eight thirty still work for everybody?
Yep.
Good deal. Election commission meeting, we're gonna do it 8:30 AM. And it is added, so that is our date, and Thursday before, for election code notice to go out to our elections administrator. Friday, we'll post our 72-hour notices required by the Texas government. All right, well, thank you all for being here this morning, participating, especially the members of the public that are still with us. We like it when folks participate. We want people to participate. Your voices, this is part of being heard, is letting us know what you're seeing, what your concerns are, so we can readily address those. So without that further ado, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Motion, do we have a second? We have a second. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, boy.